Over the series run, quite a few fan theories have popped up, and, what the hell, why not take a look at some of them and figure out which ones are true, which are possible, and which are just plain rubbish.
Sometimes I ask myself why I even bother. I mean, it's not like Joseph's even my son.
What? That's crazy.
Hey folks, welcome to Squirrel Tactics. Like, subscribe, check out the Patreon, let's do this. Okay, kind of an honorable mention here for a decently popular theory that I'm not covering because I don't have the expertise to make this call. And that's whether or not Hank is autistic or at least on the spectrum. It wouldn't surprise me if he was, but again, I do not possess the knowledge to make that call, so I'm not going to. Anywho, onto the actual theories we're covering, and let's get this one out of the way. It's the most popular and most eye-rolling theory, and that is Bill Bobby's actual biological father? Most people that support this theory point to Bill's fascination with Peggy.
Have you thought about who'll take care of Bobby when you're gone? Because I'd like to throw my hat in the ring. I'd take him to baseball games, and me and Peggy could sit up in bed at night picking out colleges.
Peggy would not be included in any guardianship situation.
I'll take the boy. The widow Hill is on her own.
You got a deal.
All right.
Don't shake his hand. Let go of that.
As well as Peggy's borderline hatred of Bill.
The only thing you need to know about Bill Dauterive is to stay away from him. Everything that man touches turns to Bill.
Some also point to Bobby not really looking like Hank, but Bobby looks just like Cotton and GH, so no, Bill is not Bobby's biological father. Bill is fascinated with Peggy mostly because he's fascinated with being Hank.
My turn. I'm next. Where do I find Peggy? But I barely got to be Hank at all.
And Peggy doesn't like Bill because, well, he's Bill.
I'm not supposed to talk to you, Mr. Dauterive. My mom gave me this whistle in case you start giving me advice.
And yes, there was Bill's confession when they all thought they were going to die and Hank's on board, but we know that he was just lying because he wanted to have something to confess.
I have a confession too, Hank. In a moment of weakness on a dark, rainy night, I slept with Peggy.
No, you didn't, Bill.
I know.
There is, however, another interesting theory on Bobby's parentage, and that's that Bobby's father is actually Boomhauer.
The horror.
So we know from Quentin Tarantino's favorite episode that Boomhauer has known Peggy longer than Hank.
I tell you what, man, it all starting to make sense, man. How you gonna go afford them no shop back? No. For God's sakes, Boomhauer, you've known Peggy longer than I have.
And it's mentioned several times, like in Bobby Slam, that Peggy wanted to name Bobby Jeffrey, which is, of course, Boomhauer's first name.
I'm sorry, little Jeffrey.
That's Bobby.
Oh, yeah. I wanted to call him Jeffrey, but some man wouldn't let me.
You mean Uncle Hank?
It should also be added that other than his family, Bobby spends more one-on-one time with Boomhauer than any other adult, which is honestly probably for the best.
You know, Bobby, I tell him don't take it from me, man. It don't life too short, man. You don't want to hold no grudge, man. I thought, man, you gonna let old bygones be bygones, man. About maybe 2 weeks, then probably 3.
Is Boomhauer secretly Bobby's father? No, Hank is Bobby's father. But that doesn't mean that Boomhauer doesn't have little Boomhowlets running around out there. Which brings us to our next theory, and it involves this little fella right here, known by the fan base as Kid Hauer. He's a classmate of Bobby's that we see often in the background, such as when he survived the Peggy-led field trip to Mexico that involved animal butchering and ended up in a kidnapping in Lupe's Revenge.
Mike Chicken is the star of the show.
And the few times he has spoken, it was always when pretty much everyone else was talking. So we never get to hear specifically what he sounds like. He does look like a younger Boomhauer like we saw in Order of the Straight Arrow.
We're gonna get snackered, I tell you what, boy, man. I want to get all messed up and it just pollute our mind. It's like 3 sheets of dang old wind, man.
And given Boomhauer's proclivity to live a playboy lifestyle, it's quite possible there's at least one little bastard Hauer out there. So could Kid Hauer be Boomhauer's son? It's possible. Now, if he is Boomhauer's son, I don't think Boomhauer is aware of it. He doesn't seem like the kind to just disappear like a fart in the wind on a kid. Plus, going back to those deathbed confessions from Hank's on Board, Boomhauer admits to dyeing his hair.
Hey, man, I do, man. I'm talking about You know, man, I'd dye my dang old hair, man.
Yeah, he dyes it to keep from being a silver fox. But I bring this up because if Boomhauer had a kid and knew about it, that would probably have been what he admitted to. Same goes with him not being Bobby's dad. He probably would have admitted that to Hank at that point. And keeping with Boomhauer, what exactly does he do for a living? Now, we saw in the series finale to Sirloin with Love that his wallet contains a Texas Rangers badge, meaning that he's been a Texas Ranger this whole time, which, yeah, that really came out of left field and it didn't make a whole lot of sense. Like, yeah, he wouldn't have recognized that he and the guys were fishing with crack.
Look, Hank, you can offer all the denials and rationalizations you want, but the bottom line is still the same. We want to try that baby.
Yeah, man, give us a baby.
Come on.
All right, ease off.
Oh, and just to get this one out of the way, no, he was not spying on Dale.
Yeah, man, tell you what, a dang old detector, man, talk about government take away freedom of smoke. Man, tell you what, a dang old yo, man, get.
Also, this is a Texas Rangers badge. There's only 172 of them across the state, and apparently when someone is promoted to Ranger, they're given a badge to carry as well as a traditional ceremonial badge that's made from a Mexican Cinco peso. But rather than the badge, what other info do we have about Boomhauer's job? Well, going in order here in 9 Pretty Darn Angry Men, he claims he's on workers' comp as well as receiving a settlement from an unnamed company.
Hey, you just go ahead and call me Boomhauer, man. It'll my last name, you know. You had done a lot of different things, you know. Had a job back there in the company, you know, with the settlement, man. I'll get a works comp too, man. It's tax free, man.
2 episodes later, in Pretty Pretty Dresses, we get him saying that he did currently work at the time.
I can't keep this up. It's not in my nature to care about others.
Yeah, man, on a little routine, man. I'm talking about no free time, man. I'm work bill, work bill, work bill, man. I'm that bullet my own head, man.
So he's either back to working and off workers' comp, or he's trying to make up an excuse to not have to babysit Bill, both of which, in all honesty, are equally possible.
Nuh-uh.
But I have to tinkle.
Not on my watch.
Then later on in the series, we get this little nugget of information from dang old Love.
Yeah, you know, then I turned 18, man. My little old mama saying, you know, go in electrical engineering, Boomhauer. They're gonna make me proud, you know. But I was like, I just don't do it, man.
Thank goodness. Engineers are way too uptight.
Okay, so kind of ironically here, it's Boomhauer's way of speaking that kind of muddies this one up. He says that his mother told him to get into electrical engineering and then goes on to say, but I was like, I just don't do it, man. Or at least that's my interpretation, so what does that mean? Her reaction doesn't really mean anything because she later on admits that she rarely understands what he's saying.
Okay, I'm going to be honest with you. I only understand about half of what you say. The other times, I just nod and smile and wait for your pants to come off.
But what I get from this was that he did get into electrical engineering, he became an electrician or something along those lines, and he ended up getting injured, hence the workers' comp and settlement. So according to 99% of the continuity, he was an electrician that most likely was injured, though he never shows it. But for 1% of continuity, and more importantly, according to the powers that be, he was a Texas Ranger. And yes, apparently the Texas Rangers were important to Arlen history, because they were frequent visitors to the tea kettle near where Arlen was founded.
And that's when the whores come in.
There we go.
Excuse me, what was that?
Up next, we have a pretty big one, and that's the theory that Dale knew about Nancy cheating and him not being Joseph's biological father. There are several arguments for this one, such as that Dale knows, but his revenge on John Redcorn is to make him watch another man raise his child, which doesn't really seem to fit for me, seeing as Dale is pretty quick to help John Redcorn, whether it be with legal help in John Redcorn's case against the American government.
It's a good precedent for our tribe's lawsuit, don't you think?
Well, with me acting as your legal advisor, I am confident you have an airtight case, although I am not sure what you mean by precedent.
Or his time as manager of Big Mountain Fudge Cake, where he got them a gig by having Octavio more or less kidnap the entertainment at the Strickland family picnic.
Gribble, got him.
Good. Make him disappear.
You want me to kill him?
What? No. Although, no, just drive him around. But I'm happy you're being proactive. There are no bad ideas.
But when Lucky and Elvin noped out, he was the one that talked John Redcorn into adapting his sound.
John Redcorn, you're the heart and soul of the cake, man. You can play this gig yourself.
Alone? Me? Besides, kids aren't gonna want to listen to me.
The BMF sound is universal. You can adapt.
Which led to John Redcorn's new career afterwards as a children's entertainer, or as Dale puts it,
But I recreated him as the Native American Raffi.
throughout the show, Dale has been John Redcorn's biggest cheerleader.
I would just like to make a toast to our friend John Redcorn III, celebrating the return of 12 acres of land, almost 1/1000% of what he was seeking. Kudos.
So the idea that he was aware but maliciously keeping that information a secret just doesn't jive with me. Now, there's not a shortage of times that Dale has either caught them in a compromising position.
I know what you're here for.
Dale, this isn't how I wanted you to find out.
Quit screwing around with my mower.
You've got to be kidding.
I don't kid about my mower. Now get inside and start massaging my wife.
He's taking some of the fun out of this.
Or caught John Redcorn in his bedroom when he shouldn't have been there.
What was he doing in your bed? Tell me he had a nightmare.
I didn't mean to hurt you. You have to believe me.
Do you love him?
I'm sorry.
No, I'm sorry.
As well as times that John Redcorn either heavily implied his affair with Nancy and Joseph's true paternity.
To the white man, who steals our land and steals our sons.
To the white man.
Or he and Nancy had an awkward conversation right in front of Dale that obviously isn't about what they're talking about.
I love treating you for migraines.
Then what is it?
It's nothing.
It's not nothing.
It's just, damn it, can I take a night off?
Do whatever you want. I don't care.
And at least once where he comes right out and says it directly to Dale's face, but it goes right over Dale's head.
I believe I'm the one who deserves the kicking. I slept with his best friend's wife for 13 years.
Yeah, Bill's wife was a tramp. Big deal.
I do want to point out John Redcorn's face here after he admits to sleeping with Hank's best friend's wife. It really does look like he's gloating to Dale, mostly because he wanted Dale to snap and attack him, which would get him on television, seeing as a reality show was being filmed at the time. And yes, apparently Dale thought that John Redcorn was gay.
So, are you really okay with your dad being gay?
Why would I have a problem with it? John Redcorn's gay, and I've been friends with him for years.
So did Dale know? My answer is either he legit did not know because he was so trusting of Nancy.
I don't know why you'd want to fool Dale like that. I mean, it's not hard if you're somebody he trusts. But hey, whatever turns you on, that's what I always say.
Or, and this is quite possibly the case, he did find out, possibly caught them on camera.
Perimeter breach. Perimeter breach. You'll never catch Dale Gribb.
Possibly figured it out when Joseph was born. Maybe he even overheard them on the phone, seeing as he monitors all incoming calls.
Kinda.
Are you crazy? Say yes.
Dale, what are you doing on the phone?
I monitor all incoming calls.
Whatever way he found out, but he couldn't deal with it, and so he created the whole alien theory in order to delude himself.
I thought I was being so smart, but I've never been so stupid.
Oh, Dale, I'm so sorry.
The truth has been right in front of me all these years. Joseph's real father is...
Nancy loves you.
An alien!
What?
In fact, his belief in various conspiracy theories may be his mind's way of hiding the truth away in order to protect itself. I mean, he believed he was the albino buffalo, for crying out loud.
Okay, time out, sitting jackass. Have you looked in the mirror lately? You are the god-dang whitest person I've ever seen.
I am the albino buffalo. Deal with it.
So, yeah, either he doesn't know or he found out and is just burying it in his subconscious. That's my 2 cents on it. But keeping with what could be the consequence of trauma, we have the theory that Peggy becoming more and more egotistical as the series progressed was caused by brain damage she received in her skydiving accident. This one actually makes sense. Yeah, the real reason is that they flanderized her character, but in universe, this makes perfect sense. People that have survived traumatic brain injuries have been known to change their personality, or to have minor traits become more prominent.
Well, I wish I could stay and help, but until they invent a machine that can stand in front of a band and keep the beat, I am needed.
That's called a metronome there, Peggy. It's called a metronome. Anywho, they tried to explain why Peggy is how she is, and a rover runs through it with the retcon of Peggy's mom and her lack of affection and overall negative demeanor towards Peggy being the reason that Peggy acts the way that she acts.
I won the Substitute Teacher of the Year award 3 years in a row.
Well, how about that? What was your subject? How to avoid a life of working with your hands?
No, it was Spanish.
But the brain injury makes more sense because she gets worse as the show goes on.
I drank the water.
En español.
Tú eres puerca.
Muy bueno.
Yeah, she did kind of have a big ego before the accident, and yes, she was already terrible at Spanish, but she does get steadily worse.
All of these calls were from Mexicans. Now, their Spanish wasn't great.
So I'm going to go ahead and just label this one as probably true. And one of the things that Peggy loves to brag about is her three-peat as Tom Landry Substitute Teacher of the Year.
I won the Substitute Teacher of the Year award 3 years in a row.
But there's a theory that Peggy did not in fact win the award 3 years in a row, and it actually makes sense when you look at it. In Square Peg, it's shown and mentioned that Peggy won the award in 1996, but not in 1995.
They found the Substitute Teacher of the Year.
1995?
1996.
But when we see her win her third award at Little Horrors of Shop, it's for 1999.
Prosperous, I accept this on behalf of everyone who has ever fallen out of a plane and lived to win her third straight Substitute Teacher of the Year award. I am king of the school! Woo!
So she won it in 1996 and in 1999, except there are 2 years in between those. So how did she win it 3 years in a row? She either did not win it 3 years in a row, or one of those years the award wasn't given out, so she just skips over that year. Either way, she did not technically win the award 3 years in a row. The next one, yeah, that's a little bit out there, but is Bobby a deity, or at least does he have magical powers? And yeah, it's a little bit more plausible than you'd think. So in Order of the Straight Arrow, we saw him possibly bring a whooping crane back to life.
It's a miracle.
Well, I'll be damned.
Wimatanya.
And yes, it is quite possible that the crane had only been knocked unconscious and was not brought back with the possible help of Wimatanya, or Wimatanya if you prefer.
The bird was just unconscious, Bobby.
No. It was dead until I made Wimatanya bring it back to life. I'm a shaman.
Oh, God, my head hurts.
But, you know, you never know. Let's not forget that he also passed every test to find the reincarnation of a llama and maybe the reincarnation of Buddha himself.
Hey, Bobby Hill, look, I got a statue of Buddha. Separated at birth or what?
He also survived a case of Humpty's revenge. And he was considered rather powerful by Ward in the Coven of Artemis, however much weight that carries.
Resplendent! The spices sit easily upon you.
But even before being trained, he predicted the end of Bill and Lauma's relationship.
Pain, affliction, tears, sadness, desolation.
Though, yeah, it's not hard to predict Bill's love life going in a negative direction. Is this one possible? I suppose it is, but I highly doubt it, and I'm going to go ahead and say that it's not true. Kind of a weird and off-the-wall one is that the Dale we know is a clone of the real Dale created to help fight the Mongol armies. Yeah, this one's pretty clearly not true, and Hank shuts that one down pretty quick.
And here's 4 reasons why. First, you're not going to clone a super warrior out of a guy who can't even win a thumb wrestling match.
But
2, you've spent your life swearing that the robots will exterminate the clones by the end of 2010. So which is it, robots or clones?
I suppose...
3, you've already said you sympathize with the invading Mongolians of 2087, so you'd be the last one they'd send to fight them. And 4, if you were from the future, you would have seen this coming.
And finally, we get to one that I believe is quite possibly true, and that's that Cotton faked his death in order to kill Fidel Castro. Cotton supposedly died in 2007, Castro died in 2016, with his cause of death being listed as natural causes.
Top fit? Yeah. Remember that thing we said we were gonna do but never did? No, we did that. We did the hell out of that. I mean, that other thing. I think it's time we finally completed our mission.
Could Cotton have faked his death and laid low for 9 years waiting for his chance before finally completing his mission?
Al. Oh, I just wanted to kill Castro.
I know, Dad. I know.
Well, if you think about it, would you really put it past him? I wouldn't, and I could definitely see this one being true. So that's our look at a few of the theories that are out there, and if we missed your favorite or you disagree with our take on one, just let us know down in the comments. Thanks for watching, and remember, Humpty took a tumble because he didn't keep his eyes on the prize. Stay on the ball, stay on the wall.
So I got Nancy the frozen pig's heart for Valentine's Day, but I can't decide which is more romantic. That she finds it next to her pillow in the morning, or the front seat of her car so she can think of me all the way to work.